Alright, this is my program evaluation of the Genesis Women's Shelter. I did it based on outcome-based evaluations. Outcome-based evaluations, the Genesis Women's Shelters, just a little bit of history of them. A woman and 3 kids went to the Austin Street shelter, and the director didn't have a safe place to put them. Realized there was a need for a safe shelter for women of abusive relationships. It was founded in 1985 by Shelter Ministries, and in 2008, the on-site school opened. And in 2013, 212 women used the shelter. My logic models on the next page. The situation is 1 in 4 women are abused in their homes. Children are affected by the violence. Women and children who have been or are being abused do not have a safe place to go. They also do not have resources for counseling. Children do not have a safe school to attend while receiving shelter. Teens in abusive families are in high risk for being abused themselves. Inputs would be staff, volunteers, First Presbyterian Church of Dallas, Episcopal Diocese of Dallas. Activities would be 24-hour telephone line, counseling, positive parenting classes, professional casework, legal services, protective orders, safe shelter, long-term housing, safe school program, outreach counseling, individual and group therapy, children's play therapy, teen counseling, counseling for friends and families. Outputs would be the women who are victims of domestic violence and children of the abused women of domestic violence. Short-term knowledge would be abused women learn how domestic violence affects their children. Abused women learn better parenting skills. Parents learn how to improve their relationships with their children. Children learn not to abuse others with words or with violence. Teens and young adults learn the warning signs of domestic abuse. Teens learn how to help a friend in an abusive relationship. Women learn their legal rights. Medium-term outcomes would be abused women get protection from the abuser. Children are protected from seeing their moms being abused. Women recover from the abuse. Women obtain divorce. Women recognize warning signs of future abusive relationships and make the decisions to leave. Long-term outcomes would be women stay out of abusive relationships. Teens do not get involved in abusive relationships. Children grow in a safe home. Women become financially independent. Domestic violence is prevented in the future generations. The assumptions that we make with this would be long-term housing will help abused women and children. Abused women will seek help. Financial resources will be available. The external factors that I found were the City of Dallas provides a 7-bedroom site for $1 per year. During my interview questions, I spoke with the residential program director, Rosie Kintsinger. Some of the foundational questions that were asked was the needs that the shelter is addressing. And the primary need was a safe shelter for women and children who are victims of domestic violence. There are requirements to stay. The victim must be a woman and must be a victim of an abusive, intimate partnership, such as husband-wife, boyfriend-girlfriend. It's basically a romantic relationship. It can't be like brother-sister, father-daughter, or mother-daughter. It has to be a romantic relationship. History was already discussed regarding when it was founded and how it was founded. The goals and objectives and criteria for success. Basically, their number one goal is a safe place. They also want to be at full capacity at all times, which they are, and they provide tools to help make the victim independent. Other criteria for success would be the shelter measures success, basically on how their clients report back after completing the program and how they stay safe. Women take what they have learned and use it, such as what a healthy relationship is and how They can recognize warning signs of an abusive relationship, such as control issues, jealousy issues. And then a child, just having a meal without disruption, such as a father coming home mad because the wife didn't make the specific dinner he wanted that night. Specific programs that target the need is the emergency shelter and transitional housing. While at the location, women are required to attend counseling sessions, attend job training, look for a job, be drug-free. Therapy is required also, and they also offer parenting classes. I'm sorry, I passed. I need to go back one. Okay. Victims can stay in the emergency shelter for 6 weeks, then transition to housing, and stay there rent-free for 12 months. Legal services provided for civil matters such as child custody issues, divorce issues. Just wanted to make a disclosure here that they do take women in that are on drugs, that have been in a domestic violence relationship, and maybe the police were called out because they were hit that night or whatever, and they need a safe place to go because the abuser left before the police got there so he didn't get arrested. Even though they use drugs, the shelter will take them in for that night and then help them get in a rehab facility. They don't offer rehab at the shelter. Developmental maturity stage of the program, it's real mature. I mean, it started in 1985. It's not geared toward numbers. It's added, since it started, 12-month housing, transitional facility, added program within therapy, added programs within, such as therapy, counseling, daycare services, job training. And in 2008, they added a on-site school, which gives children a place to go where they'll be safe. They offer daycare services, like I mentioned, $7 million a year in funding, and they answer about 3,000 calls a year for service. The community officers is basically, they partner with the Dallas Police Department, and they do a domestic, or rephrase that, the Dallas Police Department is required to do a domestic lethality screening, which is basically a questionnaire. And an officer is required to do this when they answer a call regarding a domestic violence. And basically, they have to do the questionnaire if it's an intimate relationship. And they also are required to make a phone call to the shelter if certain questions are answered that spark that concern, or if the officer in general is just concerned for the female, he can call still, or she can call still. Domestic Violence Blue Card is another tool that they partner with the Dallas Police Department with, and it basically, this is all domestic violence calls. Officers are required to hand out a card that has phone numbers and addresses of the shelters in the area, and info on a protective order also on the back of the card. They also are linked in with the doctor's offices and hospitals, and basically place flyers and pamphlets in the women's restroom, with the understanding that usually when you go to the doctor's office, you're going to be required to give a urine sample. So you're going to be in the bathroom, and if you're a victim of domestic violence and you're away from that person, because usually if you're a victim, a person's with you all the time. He wants to control your life. So he goes with you to the doctor's office. Well, you can grab that flyer while he's not paying attention and stick it somewhere he can't see it. Currently, they're trying to tap into churches because, as you know, a lot of women are strong in their faith, and a pastor needs to be trained on how to handle this. And then they're also tapped into schools. They also have a heroes program for basically men to stand up and say no to family violence. Outcome-based questions. One of the questions was measure outcomes different, or the measure of the outcomes, and the program measures outcomes differently by stage of change, victims in contemplating leave or not, ready to leave and make changes, back to contemplating stage on if she will return or finish the program, and basically positive outcomes, finish the program, negative outcome is returning home to the abusive relationship. They also measure how many people complete the 6 weeks and how many stay connected to the agency and continue counseling. Outcome-based questions continued. After 6 weeks, they transitioned to the 12-month program. Typically, 90% of women complete the 12-month program. They also measure how many hours of service provided to clients, how many hours of service is provided to community efforts. They communicate with UT Southwestern, who does research of women who have completed the program and how they are doing since finishing the program. Are they back with the abuser? Are they living on their own? Are they in another abusive relationship, or are they in a healthy relationship? Specific target goes not going back to the abuser. The requirements that they require, such as job training, rehab, counseling, and then finish counseling is also another target goal they focus on to help eliminate the need. Participant outcomes over the last 5 years. This was kind of hard to measure. They do yearly reports. And this basically is how many people they've served over each year. They have provided shelter for over 1,000 women and their children in the past 5 years. And since they're a social service, they're not allowed to contact women who have used their services, so this is hard to measure. However, they do have numerous success stories. Also, they consider their program successful if just one person who was helped and one life was saved. Useful numbers. This is just numbers that I thought would be important on here. There's the number of the Genesis Women's Shelter, Dallas Police Family Violence Squad, and then the District Attorney's Office for Emergency Protective Orders. This is basically the end of my slide or my presentation. I just want to put these numbers out there. If somebody knows somebody that's being abused or are being abused, please don't hesitate to call one of these numbers. And then also 911. You'll be amazed how much officers know regarding family violence and how compassionate someone can be. And I'm not saying all of them are, but most of them are. Well, thank you for listening to my presentation of the Genesis Women's Shelter.